when humanity first sent the small experimental probe, called Vanguard 3, into deep space. No one truly expected anything unusual to happen. The project had been treated almost like a hopeful gamble, an early test of a new engine that scientists believed might push a craft faster than light for a brief moment. Many people around the world did not even pay attention to the launch, thinking it was just another quiet scientific experiment that would take years to show results. But something surprising happened only a few hours after the probe was activated. Operators watching the mission screens noticed the probe's signal suddenly shift, jumping far beyond its expected route. No one understood it at first. The data did not make sense. It was as if the small probe had slipped out of the usual fabric of space and appeared somewhere completely different. People in the control room stared at the screens with confused expressions, waiting for some kind of correction or reboot. None came. As they slowly pieced together the readings, the truth felt unbelievable. The probe had somehow crossed into a part of space that humans had never mapped or even guessed existed. Communication was weak, but stable enough to receive basic images, and those images shocked the entire team. Instead of black empty space and faraway stars, the probe floated near what looked like a field of gigantic metallic shapes, scattered across a strange region of space. At first, the scientists thought the shapes were just natural formations, maybe huge chunks of rock covered in reflective minerals. But as the probe moved closer, the details became clear. These were not rocks. They were pieces of something constructed massive structures, curved plates of metal, long beams, shattered domes, and fragments of designs no human had ever seen. It looked like the remains of something that had once been incredibly advanced. Everyone waited for the next set of images, each picture bringing more questions than answers. There were markings on several pieces of metal, glowing lines that looked like symbols or instructions. Some parts seemed almost too large to understand. One broken cylinder was nearly the size of a tall mountain. Nothing about the scene felt natural or peaceful. It looked like the leftovers of something huge and important. Scientists around the world were pulled into meetings, checking the data again and again, trying to understand what the probe had discovered. At first, some argued that this had to be an ancient construction site, a place where some unknown species once built enormous machines long before humans ever existed. Others believed it was the wreckage of a spacecraft or station that had been abandoned thousands of years earlier. But even those guesses felt incomplete. The pieces were scattered in a pattern too chaotic and too recent-looking to be simply old ruins. As the probe drifted forward, something unexpected happened. A weak glow appeared inside one of the wrecked structures. It flickered like a dying light bulb, then strengthened, spreading across the surface of the metal. The team watching the live feed leaned forward in silence. No one spoke. It felt like the whole building was waking up. After a moment that felt far longer than it was, the glow pulsed, and a sudden burst of energy flashed outward from the structure. The probe's signal spiked. A sound, not exactly a sound, but something like one was picked up through its instruments. Then, in the middle of everyone's stunned confusion, the probe did something that had not been programmed. It sent out a transmission. The team stared at the monitor as lines of unreadable symbols filled the screen. It took a moment to realize what was happening. The wreckage had triggered the probe's communication system. The probe had broadcast a message into Space One that humans did not understand. One the probe itself was not designed to create. People around the world would later argue about whether this moment was the greatest accident in human history or the most dangerous, because that single unintended transmission did something no one expected. It alerted two advanced civilizations who had been searching for signs of activity in that area of space. At the time, the humans monitoring Vanguard 3 had no way of knowing this. They thought they were dealing with a strange malfunction. The team shut down the probe's transmitter for a few seconds in an attempt to regain control. But before they could stabilize anything, two enormous shapes appeared in the distance behind the drifting wreckage. They were too far away to see clearly at first, only dark silhouettes blocking the stars. But as they approached, their outlines changed, revealing smooth, precise shapes that looked nothing like the broken debris around them. Even without full visibility, it was clear these were not ruins. They were moving. They had purpose. They had power. The room went silent again, this time not from confusion, but from a quiet chill that ran through everyone at once. For hundreds of years, humanity had wondered if they were alone. Some people believed they would never find evidence of other life. Others believed that if they ever did, it would come in the form of microbes on distant planets or simple organisms hiding beneath icy surfaces. But no one had imagined the first confirmation of alien life would arrive like this, too enormous. Active vessels responding to a signal that humans did not intend to send out. As the vessels approached the wreckage field, strange lights ran along their sides. One ship glowed with calm, soft patterns, almost like signals meant to communicate or scan. The other displayed sharp, shifting shapes that looked more aggressive, as if it were preparing for something uncertain. The humans watching could not understand the meaning, but they could sense the difference in tone. The two ships slowed as they neared each other, then turned their attention toward the tiny human probe drifting in the middle of the scene. It was almost like the two colossal beings had suddenly discovered a small creature, wandering into the middle of a tense negotiation. No one on Earth wanted to imagine what these ships were thinking, or if they even thought in a way humans could understand. Scientists quickly tried to pull the probe back, attempting to activate its return program, but it was too late. The energy from the wreckage had overloaded several systems. The probe responded slowly, struggling to move. And in that short delay, everything changed. The larger of the two alien vessels sent out a beam not harmful, not damaging, just a scanning light that wrapped around the probe like a spotlight. The smaller ship followed with a different kind of scan, creating a shimmering wave that passed through the debris field. The humans could see their tiny craft being studied from two directions at once, and then both ships shifted their attention. Not at each other, not at the wreckage dot, but at Earth dot. The data coming in from the probe confirmed it. The alien vessels had accessed the probe's navigation logs. They had Earth's coordinates dot. There was nothing anyone on Earth could do now. They watched helplessly as their small, fragile craft floated in the middle of a HFY. Silent but powerful interaction between civilizations, far older and far more advanced than anything humans had ever imagined. Realization slowly sank in across the planet. Humanity had not just found alien life. They had wandered into something much bigger, a galactic situation already filled with history, tension, and politics. And humans had accidentally announced themselves in the middle of it. The first vessel, the one with the calm, flowing lights, seemed almost curious, its movements slow and careful. The second, shining with sharp patterns, appeared more focused and intense. Although humans could not understand their languages or intentions, the difference between the two became clearer as the minutes passed. One seemed like a watcher. The other seemed like a hunter. And the humans, powerless and unprepared, had just been noticed by both dot. Back on Earth, leaders gathered quickly, speaking in urgent tones. Scientists tried to calculate how long it would take for the alien ships to travel to the solar system. Engineers worked on ways to strengthen communication systems. No one knew whether the approaching civilizations would arrive peacefully or with expectations humans could not meet. One thing became painfully clear: humanity was not alone, and they were not stepping into a friendly open galaxy. They had stumbled into the middle of a complicated power struggle among ancient spacefaring species, ones who might see humans as interesting newcomers, useful tools, or simply a small obstacle in their greater conflict. Whatever the case was, humans suddenly realized their position in the universe. They were the underdogs. When the news spread that two unknown alien ships had detected the small human probe and now knew Earth's location, the world reacted with a mix of fear, excitement, and disbelief. People gathered around screens, waiting for updates. Some felt curious, some felt nervous, and some simply felt too overwhelmed to process anything. For the first time in human history, everyone on the planet shared the same question. Who were these visitors, and what did they want? Governments rushed into emergency meetings. No one had any protocol for accidental contact with two alien factions at the same time. Scientists had predicted the possibility of alien life, but no one had imagined first contact happening during an active conflict between advanced civilizations. Earth had not prepared for anything like this. Early estimates suggested the alien ships were not heading toward Earth aggressively. Their course showed a calm, steady path, not hurried, not chaotic. But that did not ease anyone's tension. A slow approach could mean caution, or calculation, or something humans had no knowledge about. Almost every communication system on Earth was pointed skyward, waiting for a signal. Days passed. People worried that maybe the aliens had lost interest, or worse, maybe the aliens were planning something humans could not detect. The silence became its own kind of message. Then, without warning, the sky changed. A small point of light appeared near Earth's upper atmosphere. It was quiet and gentle, but unmistakably unnatural. It shimmered like a ripple in water. A moment later, the shimmer expanded into a doorway-like shape, as if space itself had folded open. And out of that opening came a craft sleek, curved, and glowing softly with moving patterns, just like the calm vessel seen near the wreckage field. The world watched breathlessly. This was not a huge warship. It was a small vessel, almost peaceful in appearance. It slowed down gently and placed itself in orbit around Earth, sending out a soft pulse of energy. The pulse was detected by satellites. Translated into a simple signal, a request for peaceful communication. Earth responded with a carefully prepared broadcast carrying greetings in multiple languages and a sequence of basic scientific symbols. Within minutes, the alien ship replied, not in words, but through a series of clear shapes and tones that matched the human message and structure. It was not a conversation yet, but it was absolutely communication. Scientists and experts worked nonstop to understand the incoming signals. The patterns were complex, but not unfriendly. They seemed to express introduction, observation, and curiosity. The tone felt patient, almost respectful. But while the world was still trying to process this first contact, something else happened. A second ripple appeared near the moon. This time the shape that came through was sharp, rigid, and much larger. The second ship matched the appearance of the intense-looking vessel from the wreckage field. It did not glow softly. Instead, it emitted firm, deliberate bursts of light. The signals it sent were stronger, sharper, and carried a tone that seemed less interested in peaceful exchange and more focused on authority. Suddenly, Earth had two alien factions demanding attention. The first ship, calm, gentle, waiting, held its place near Earth. The second, strong, precise, took a position closer to the moon. As if watching both Earth and the first ship at the same time, humans did not need translation to understand that these two groups were not allies. Special teams were now responsible for interpreting alien messages. The calm ship's signals were easier to understand. They followed patterns that matched Earth's attempts at communication. The meaning, as best as scientists could determine, suggested they were travelers who believed humans had potential value as partners. They expressed something like welcome, interest, caution, and a willingness to learn. The second ship's communication was different. It was more demanding. The signals arrived in strong bursts, repeated over and over, almost like instructions. The tone felt like someone knocking firmly on a door, insisting to be let inside. While the exact translation was unclear, the meaning felt closer to a command than a conversation. Earth suddenly understood something important. Humanity was not just discovered. Humanity was being claimed. Now this realization created instant tension across the world. Leaders debated nonstop. Should Earth respond to both? Should Earth choose one side? What if choosing wrong meant danger for the entire planet? And what if choosing neither offended both groups? No one had answers. The first real breakthrough came when the calm ship sent a symbol that looked like an open hand and invitation. The pattern after that symbol resembled partnership or alliance. But the important part came next. It showed two uneven symbols connected by a line, possibly indicating that they saw humans as inexperienced, but capable of cooperation. The second ship responded with a completely different signal. It flashed a symbol resembling a closed shape with sharp edges, something like a shield or boundary. Then several patterns repeated, each more forceful than the last. Analysts reading the structure interpreted it as an announcement of authority, the way an empire might claim ownership or responsibility for a newly discovered territory. Earth quickly understood the core problem. One group wanted humans as partners. The other wanted humans as subjects. And humans were expected to respond. The situation inside Earth's communication centers became more chaotic by the hour. Messages needed to be balanced, carefully polite but firm, open but cautious. Humans did not want to anger either side. They did not want to seem too eager, nor too defiant. Every signal sent felt like stepping across a thin bridge stretched over unknown danger. Small human delegation was organized aboard an orbiting station. They were trained in simple gestures, calm speech, and non-threatening behavior. They prepared to meet whichever alien side reached out first. People around the world watched, knowing this moment might shape humanity's future for decades or centuries. The calm ship made the first move. It sent a soft beam, not toward Earth, but toward the human station. The beam carried a repeating pattern of shapes, almost like a polite hello. Slowly, gently, a compact shuttle separated from the calm ship and drifted toward the station. The humans waited, hearts racing, unsure what to expect. But before the shuttle could reach the station, the second ship reacted. A burst of light shot across space, not a weapon, just a loud and clear interruption. It was like someone shouting, "Stop!" in the middle of a quiet conversation. The shuttle paused instantly. The two alien ships exchanged signals rapidly, so fast that humans could hardly follow. The patterns were tense, sharp, overlapping. It was clear they were arguing. Humans could only watch as two powerful civilizations debated over them like two groups trying to claim the same territory. The entire moment felt unreal, peaceful in tone, but heavy in meaning. Finally, the calm ship sent a new signal to the human station, something like a reassurance. The shuttle resumed its slow approach. The humans on the station prepared themselves. But then a new challenge came. The second ship sent a stronger command signal, not to the human station, but to Earth directly. It was as if they were bypassing the smaller human group entirely. The signal carried patterns that translated loosely as a warning. Humans must not trust the calm ship. This created complete confusion. Both aliens were trying to guide humans, one gently, one forcefully, but in opposite directions. Earth was trapped between two messages, two intentions, and two expectations. Despite all the tension, no harm came to anyone. The actions were firm but controlled, as though the aliens understood humans were fragile and inexperienced. They seemed aware this was first contact, and they acted accordingly. Even when disagreeing. Eventually, the small shuttle from the calm ship reached the human station. It did not dock physically. Instead, it released a hologram-like projection shape made of light. The figure had no face, No limbs, nothing human-like. It was a series of moving patterns arranged in a gentle posture, communicating without any threat. The hologram expressed something important. The repeating symbols meant choice, freedom, voluntary cooperation. It was completely different from the controlling tone of the ship near the moon. For the first time, humans felt that one side truly respected their independence. This moment became a turning point. Earth finally responded. They sent a signal to both ships. Earth did not belong to anyone. Humanity would decide its own path. They would communicate with both, learn from both, but would not accept force or demands from either side. The calm ship reacted with understanding. Its lights softened. The second ship reacted with frustration. Its lights sharpened again. Humanity realized the truth. They had stepped into a galactic conflict far older than themselves. These two factions were not competing for friendship. They were competing for advantage. And humans, small, new, inexperienced, had something both sides wanted. The calm group saw potential. The forceful group saw opportunity for control. And Earth, caught between them, had to find a way to protect itself without angering civilizations capable of crossing the stars. Humanity was not ready for this level of responsibility. But now they had no choice. The aliens were here. They were watching. They were waiting. Humans needed to act wisely, because the entire galaxy had just discovered them, and humans were the underdogs in a game they did not understand. When the two alien factions finally understood that humans would not let themselves be claimed, the entire situation shifted. Neither side left, and neither side stayed silent. Instead, they watched Earth carefully, almost like two experienced players studying a newcomer who had unexpectedly decided to join a very serious game. Humans, meanwhile, knew they were stepping into something far more complicated than simple first contact. They had to learn to communicate better, understand alien intentions, and somehow protect themselves without appearing aggressive. The whole planet felt like it was walking across a thin rope, trying to balance curiosity, fear, and the need for survival. The calm-looking faction, the one that had sent the gentle signals earlier, continued to reach out with patient patterns. Their messages were slow, structured, and open, almost as if they understood that humans needed time to learn. Scientists appreciated this. They could analyze the signals like puzzle pieces, slowly matching shapes and tones until meanings became clearer. The stronger, more forceful faction did not slow down. Their communications came with sharp patterns that felt more like statements than conversations. They asked questions that sounded less like curiosity and more like evaluation questions that made Earth feel as if they were being judged or measured, while the two alien groups kept watching. Something surprising began to happen back on Earth. For the first time in generations, countries forgot their political disagreements and began meeting together. Leaders who once struggled to agree on simple issues now sat side by side in long conference rooms. Everyone realized that whatever differences they had before were tiny compared to what they faced now. Teams of engineers, language experts, psychologists, astronomers, and diplomats were brought together into one global structure. They worked in small rooms under bright lights, surrounded by screens filled with alien symbols. The air buzzed with quiet excitement, frustration, and determination. Humans wanted to show the aliens that they were not weak, not foolish, and not easy to manipulate. At first, humans assumed their best chance of survival was in technology building stronger communication systems, improving satellites, and creating small craft that could safely leave Earth's orbit to meet the alien ships. But it soon became clear that no matter how advanced human tools were, they could not compete with the technology of the two alien factions. The calm faction had ships that moved, as if they were flowing through space like water. Their lights changed with each message. Their shields glimmered effortlessly. and their small shuttles could hover silently in ways humans could not understand. The stronger faction had ships built like giant sculptures, sharp angles, solid frames, glowing sections that looked like controlled lightning. Even from a distance, humans could feel the strength these ships represented. They did not drift gently. They arrived with purpose, realizing they could never win through raw power. Humans turned to the one thing they were always good at: creative problem solving. Humans had spent centuries finding complicated solutions with limited tools. They had learned to adapt to disasters, survive difficult environments, and build new ideas from scraps. They had created entire industries through trial, error, and stubbornness. And more importantly, humans were unpredictable something alien civilizations did not seem used to. One moment became a perfect example. The Calm faction sent a message requesting a demonstration of human abilities, not weapons, not technology, but something that represented how humans solved problems. Most scientists expected Earth to send advanced machines or digital models. Instead, a small team suggested something different: a human-built rescue drone that had been designed years earlier to search for survivors after natural disasters. It was lightweight, could squeeze into tiny spaces, and used multiple cameras and sensors to map damaged areas. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't impressive by alien standards. But it was clever. The drone was launched into space aboard a small human transport vessel. When the Calm faction sent a floating structure toward the humans, a cube-like object made from bending metal plates, the humans realized they were being tested. The cube slowly rearranged itself, creating a maze-like interior. The drone entered the maze, quickly mapping pathways and adjusting its wings and wheels as it moved. It used its simple tools, heat detection, motion sensors, vibration readings, to understand the environment. And within minutes, it reached the center of the maze. The Calm faction's lights glowed softly, sending a pattern that looked like approval. The humans had passed the test, but that was not the surprising part. The stronger faction had been watching. Their ship sent a sharp burst of light, as if annoyed or threatened. They had expected humans to fail or struggle, not to succeed with something as small and ordinary as a rescue drone. It wasn't powerful. It wasn't advanced. But it was effective. For the first time, the stronger faction changed the way they looked at humans. They sent a direct message, not a demand, not a warning, but something closer to a question. The pattern roughly translated to: how did humans build something so simple yet so adaptable? That question alone revealed something important. Alien civilizations had grown so advanced that they no longer understood low-tech ingenuity. Their societies relied heavily on predictable systems, stable rules, and technologies that followed clear patterns. Humans did not operate that way. Humans produced creativity from chaos, something the aliens did not expect. This unexpected human strength began to shift the dynamic. Earth teams felt more confident. They shared examples of human creativity with both factions: humanitarian tools, survival devices, energy-saving inventions, and even artistic designs. The Calm faction responded with continuous curiosity, learning more and more about human thinking. The stronger faction watched more carefully now, their communications becoming slightly less forceful. Even so, both factions continued to push humans for alignment. The Calm group tried to guide humans toward peaceful cooperation, offering knowledge and shared research opportunities. They showed humans glimpses of star maps, energy systems, and cultural symbols. Their messages always carried a tone of patience, like a teacher who believed humans could grow into something valuable. The stronger group pushed in the opposite direction. Their messages suggested that humans should follow their rules for protection, stability, and strength. They presented their dominance as something natural, something they believed every rising civilization eventually accepted. but humans kept refusing to. Choose. This made them unpredictable, and unpredictability became their advantage. In one joint communication session, both factions sent signals at the same time, something like a double interview. They expected humans to become overwhelmed. Instead, humans did something none of the aliens expected. They combined the signals, rearranging them into a single visual chart that compared both messages side by side. This simple act forced the two alien groups to realize something. Humans weren't just listening, they were analyzing. They were studying the aliens just as much as the aliens were studying them. Both factions fell quiet for a moment, sending no new messages. For humans, that pause was encouraging. It meant their approach was working. Still, the situation was not without risk. As humans grew more confident, the stronger faction became more cautious. Their lights turned inward more often, as if calculating something. The calm faction also grew quieter, perhaps reconsidering how quickly humans were learning. Earth sensed that something bigger was approaching, the entire galaxy. It seemed had its attention on this small blue planet that was refusing to follow old patterns. Humans were stepping into a conflict that had existed long before their species learned to walk. But instead of being passive observers, humans were shaping the situation with creativity, stubbornness, and unexpected intelligence. Humans knew they were still the weaker side. They had no massive ships, no powerful energy systems, no ancient networks of alliances. But what they did have was heart, and unpredictable and determined. Spirit that pushed them to adapt no matter what challenge they faced. Was the human advantage. This was what the aliens had not accounted for. And now, for the first time since contact began, both factions realized something important. Humans were not passive. Humans were not easy to influence. Humans were becoming players in the galactic struggle. They were the underdogs, but not helpless, and the galaxy was beginning to notice. As days turned into weeks, the calm faction and the stronger faction continued circling around Earth like two enormous shadows keeping watch. Both sides remained close, but neither made any threatening moves. It was almost like two neighbors standing on opposite sides of the same fence, polite enough to avoid a fight, but tense enough to keep their distance. And in the middle, humans tried to understand what was happening without losing their balance. Earth had now become a symbol, even though humankind still didn't fully understand why. To the calm faction, humans represented potential. To the stronger faction, humans represented opportunity. And to both, Earth was now a point of interest that neither wanted the other to influence too much. The presence of the aliens forced humans to work together in ways they had never done before. A single global council had formed, and it met almost every hour of the day. Screens displayed alien signals, translations, star charts, ideas, and theories. The room often felt like a giant mix of excitement, fear, creativity, and stress all at once. But somehow, despite the pressure, people kept finding solutions. One main concern was that humanity did not want its home to become a battleground, literally or politically. The world had spent centuries learning how to manage internal conflicts, and the idea of being caught between two galactic forces was something no one had ever imagined. Even the calm faction could accidentally cause problems simply by being present in Earth's orbit. Because the stronger faction always reacted with suspicion, one clear example happened when Earth sent a small shuttle carrying scientists to observe the calm faction's technology more closely. The calm ship welcomed the gesture with a soft glow, sending a pattern that translated loosely as cooperation. However, the moment the stronger faction saw the shuttle approaching the calm ship, their lights flared in a sharp pattern, sending a message that essentially meant, "You are choosing sides." The human scientists panicked. The shuttle wasn't even halfway to the calm ship yet. Earth quickly sent a message to both factions explaining that this wasn't a political decision. It was merely a scientific study. But the stronger faction remained quiet, as if thinking deeply about what humans had just done. The calm faction, sensing tension, sent a gentle signal to Earth suggesting the humans bring the shuttle back. After a small moment of hesitation, Earth agreed. The shuttle returned, and the stronger faction's lights slowly softened. The possibility of misunderstandings was clear. Even the simplest actions could look suspicious to either side. This tension made Earth rethink its approach. Instead of interacting separately with each alien group, humans decided to make all communication open and shared. Every message humans sent would be forwarded to both factions at the same time. Every response humans received would be displayed publicly to both, so there would be no secrets. It was a bold move. A risky one, but it had an unexpected effect. Both alien sides respected it. They seemed to recognize that humans were being fair. Neither side could complain about being ignored or excluded. And this transparency allowed humans to prevent many misunderstandings before they could turn into bigger problems. Even so, the atmosphere remained heavy. Earth felt surrounded by powers far beyond human ability. There were moments when the calm faction drifted a little too close, or when the stronger faction adjusted its position in a way that made the world hold its breath. Nothing harmful happened, but everything felt like a quiet test. During this time, Earth continued building its own defenses, not weapons, but strategies. Humans knew they could not match the alien factions in technology or force, but they could prepare in other ways. They improved global communication networks, protected satellites with stronger shielding, built multiple backup stations, and even created underground centers where councils could continue working if anything interrupted surface operations. Most importantly, they trained people around the world in calm response behaviors. Humans learned how to send signals that expressed neutrality, openness, or caution, depending on the situation. Psychologists taught teens how to understand subtle intentions based on alien patterns. Linguists studied every signal, translating even the smallest change in tone or rhythm. Humans were learning faster than the aliens expected, and that began to unsettle the stronger faction. One evening, when the planet rotated into its dark side and half the world slept, the stronger ship sent a series of signals toward the calm ship. The patterns were intense, layered, and rapid, as if the stronger faction was accusing the calm faction of something. The calm ship responded with slower, more controlled signals. From Earth's viewpoint, it looked like a heated argument between two enormous, silent giants. The lights from both ships flashed across the night sky in ways that caused confusion among people on the ground. News channels reported that the alien ships were communicating intensely, and speculation grew everywhere. Some people thought a major dispute had started. Others thought the aliens were negotiating over Earth's future. And some simply watched with quiet concern, hoping the ships would calm down. Earth sent a simple message to both factions, saying something that translated roughly to, "We are observing your exchange. Please confirm that Earth is not at risk." The calm faction responded quickly with a gentle signal, meaning something like, "Earth is safe." The stronger faction replied later with a shorter, firmer pattern that humans interpreted as acknowledgement. This episode made it clear that humans were deeply involved in something serious. But instead of letting fear control them, humans continued leaning on their unpredictable strength, problem-solving. To maintain peace, Earth proposed something unusual, an event that neither alien faction expected. Humans sent a message inviting both factions to observe a global cooperation demonstration. It would not be military, not scientific, and not political. Instead, humans wanted to show their ability to unite and think creatively. The event took place on Earth's largest communication station. Screens lit up with visuals from around the globe, communities working together, rescue teams training in difficult conditions, engineers managing disasters. volunteers helping one another during storms and earthquakes. The broadcast showed how humans handled crises not with strict hierarchy, but with flexibility and teamwork. The calm faction reacted warmly. Their lights shimmered with patterns that meant appreciation. The stronger faction stayed quiet for a while, then finally sent a message that surprised everyone. The tone was softer. The pattern was slower. It expressed something close to respect. For the first time, both alien factions seemed to acknowledge the same thing: humans were not just a resource. They were a capable, adaptable species. But just when Earth began to feel a little more secure, something unexpected happened. New signals appeared, this time not from the two alien factions near Earth, but from distant space. The signals were faint, broken, and irregular, as if coming from damaged equipment or a faraway point of conflict. They carried no clear message, just a repeated distress pattern. The calm faction reacted immediately. Their lights shifted into a serious tone, and they repositioned themselves slightly above Earth. The stronger faction also reacted, but differently. They scanned the region, as if trying to identify the source of the signal. Humans were confused. They asked both factions what the new signals meant, but neither replied. The silence was unsettling. The calm faction's lights dimmed slightly, as if preparing for something. The stronger faction's lights sharpened, indicating alertness. Earth's Global Council realized the truth. Something happening far away was now affecting Earth indirectly. Whatever conflict the two alien factions came from was not far behind them, and Earth was no longer just a curious discovery. It had become part of something bigger. Humans gathered for emergency discussions. They talked about what these new signals could mean. Were they warnings? Evidence of a distant conflict moving closer? Or calls for help? No one knew. But they did know one thing for certain. Humans had to be prepared for whatever came next. Despite all the tension and uncertainty, Earth held on to its new strength: unity. People around the world continued working together, creating plans not based on fear, but on smart cooperation. Humans reminded themselves that they had already surprised the galaxy once by showing that even without advanced technology, they could think, adapt, and solve problems in ways no one expected. Now, as the calm faction and stronger faction adjusted their positions in silent readiness, humans understood that the next phase of this galactic struggle was approaching. Earth had no intention of becoming anyone's battleground, but the galaxy was moving, and humans, small, new, unpredictable, were right at the center of it. The days after the last major clash felt strange for everyone on Earth. People were going to work, children were still going to school, and life seemed normal on the surface. But deep down, everyone knew the truth. The world had changed forever. Earth was now tied to a conflict far bigger than anything humanity had ever imagined. The Kira Coalition continued to share updates about the Orthus Dominion's movements, and each new message sounded like a warning. The Orthus were not stepping back. They were preparing for something large, something final. In many countries, people checked the sky at night with a mixture of fear and curiosity. Some wondered if giant ships would appear again without warning. Others hoped the Kira would keep them safe. But no matter what people felt, the reality was clear. Earth was now part of a struggle between powers that were older, stronger, and more experienced than humans. Inside the Global Command Center, built hurriedly in the last few months, screens showed maps of space, energy readings, and messages translated from Kira language. The human team sat in long rows, each one doing their best to keep up with the new information. Many had barely slept. The tension was heavy, as if the building itself could feel the pressure. They all knew something was coming. The Kira sent a transmission one early morning, their tone serious. They explained that they had intercepted communications from the Orthus Dominion. Those messages suggested that the Orthus were preparing a massive attack. Not just a show of force, but a real attempt to crush both the Kyra and any human involvement once and for all. The Orthis believed the humans had become too bold. In their eyes, humans were a tiny species who had interfered too many times. They wanted to end the matter decisively. For a few minutes after the message ended, no one in the command center spoke. It was as though everyone needed a moment to let the words sink in. Earth had no choice but to face whatever was coming. There was no option to hide or pretend the problem would go away. When the leaders of Earth met to discuss the next move, the conversation was calmer than anyone expected. All the disagreements that normally divided nations felt distant. Instead of arguing, everyone focused on one question. How could humans help without being destroyed? They knew they didn't have the power to match the Orthis in strength, but they also understood something important. They had helped the Kira before, and it mattered. Humans had done things the Kira hadn't predicted. They had approached problems in ways that felt strange to alien minds, but surprisingly effective. The Kira understood this too. When their representatives came through a secure channel, they didn't discuss weapons or numbers. They asked humanity for ideas. They had studied the way humans thought, improvised, creative, unpredictable. These qualities were strange to many alien species who worked in precise, calculated ways. But humans were different, and the Kyra needed that difference. The plan took shape slowly. It wasn't based on force. It was based on misdirection, timing, and risk. Humans suggested a strategy that seemed absurd at first, even to themselves. The idea was to trick the Orthis into believing the Kira and humans were preparing one kind of defense while secretly setting up another. It required the Kyra fleet to act weaker than they actually were. They would create the illusion of a collapsing front line, leading the Orthis to move in aggressively. Meanwhile, a hidden formation would be positioned behind a distorted region of space where sensors didn't work properly. The Orthis had always used that area to hide their own ships. It had never occurred to them that someone else would try the same thing against them. The humans also proposed, releasing streams of false data, fake transmissions, and misleading energy signatures, all designed to confuse the Orthis. The Kira were experts in discipline. They found it strange to rely on chaos. But they trusted humans enough to try. As the plan unfolded, Earth watched with anxious eyes. People gathered around screens in homes, schools, and public places. No one wanted a war, but everyone understood what defeat would mean. There were families who held each other close at night, whispering soft words of comfort. There were older people who remembered past global fears, but said this was different. This time, the threat wasn't from Earth, it was from the stars. When the Orthis fleet finally moved, the scale was overwhelming. Even from Earth's distant view, the readings were unlike anything humans had ever seen. The Orthis ships looked like enormous moving shadows, their designs meant to intimidate. They approached with full confidence, believing they were about to deliver the final strike that would secure their dominance. At first, everything happened exactly as humans expected. The Kira front line appeared to be collapsing. Ships withdrew in a controlled but desperate-looking retreat. The Orthis believed their victory was close. They accelerated, breaking formation to chase what they saw as easy targets. Their commanders wanted to show the entire galaxy that resistance was pointless. But the moment the Orthis fleet pushed too far, the hidden Kira forces emerged from behind the distorted region of space. They struck with perfect timing. The Orthis were completely unprepared. Their formations were scattered, their sensor readings confused by the false signals humans had crafted. The Orthis commanders tried to regain control, but the chaos spread too fast. Humans monitored everything from the command center. When the turning point came, they could feel it. The atmosphere in the room changed. People leaned forward. Some even held their breath. The Kyra had landed a powerful blow. But the battle wasn't over. The Orthis still had tremendous strength, and they fought fiercely to push back. The crucial moment came when the Orthis attempted to regroup around their central command ship. Humans had predicted this move. They had suggested placing a network of reflective, drones, simple machines launched from Earthships in a ring around the battlefield. These drones could bounce energy signals, creating illusions of objects that weren't really there. When the Orthis tried to form up around their command ship, they found themselves unable to read the true positions of their own vessels. Every move they made seemed to push them deeper into confusion. This gave the Kyra the window they needed. Their ships coordinated a precise strike that shattered the Orthis command structure. Once the central ship went silent, the rest of the fleet began to fall apart. The Orthis were strong, but they depended on strict hierarchy. Without it, they struggled to adapt. The final moments of the battle were filled with tension. But slowly, steadily, the Kyra gained ground. Then the impossible happened. The Orthis fleet withdrew, not in a tactical repositioning, but in a full retreat. They pulled away in silence, leaving behind fragments of broken metal and a stunned galaxy. On Earth, relief washed through cities and towns like a warm wave. People cried, laughed, hugged strangers. The danger wasn't fully gone. The Orthis could return one day, but for now, the threat had passed. Humanity had survived something unimaginable. They had not been spectators. They had been part of the struggle. A few days later, a Kyra vessel arrived in Earth's orbit. Their representatives came forward with an offer. They wanted humanity to join them as equals, not as followers, not as protected beings, but as partners. The Kyra explained that humans had done something rare. They had changed the direction of a war, not through power, but through creativity and courage. The ceremony was simple. There were no grand speeches, no dramatic announcements. Just a quiet meeting between two species who had fought side by side. When the agreement was finalized, it felt like the beginning of a new chapter. Earth was no longer hidden in a small corner of space. It had stepped onto a larger stage, still small, still learning, but no longer overlooked. In the months that followed, humans and Kyra shared knowledge, technology, and stories. The more they talked, the more they realized how much they could learn from each other. And though the Orthis dominion remained somewhere in the vastness of space, their defeat changed everything. They could no longer ignore humanity. They could no longer assume humans were harmless. People on Earth continued with their daily lives, but something inside them had shifted. They felt connected to something bigger. They looked at the night sky not with fear, but with a sense of belonging. Humanity had stepped into a galactic struggle as the weakest players, but they had emerged with new allies and a new reputation that no one knew what the future would bring. There were still dangers, still mysteries hidden in the stars. But now, humans faced them with confidence. They were no longer wandering into the unknown. They were walking forward with purpose, with friends by their side, and with the knowledge that even the smallest voice could change the fate of worlds.